Hello, and it's good to see you, intrepid viewers. So it's getting more and more hectic with everything going on, and I'm still trying to get away in early April for my trip, so you're all welcome. I'll keep you posted on that. But in the meantime, that's seriously a first world problem considering what's going on in so many places. So in general news, it seems there's all sorts of help is now seemingly getting through to Ukraine. And I think there must be every version of black ops and grey ops and every sort of ops going on. I've heard Navy SEALs might be deployed in port cities or something. It's hard to tell, as we say, the wheat from the chaff in Australia. It's hard to tell what is actual news on the fly and what's just made up in somebody's bedroom. So we're trying to keep across it all, right? So I think we can safely say a lot is going on in support of Ukraine. Halliburton has pulled out of Russia. Now, Halliburton, Liz Cheney's father, remember Dick Cheney and all of that, you know, quite a sinister organisation in many ways. They seem to track these wars around the world, and that's what they do, pretending to be an energy company or something. But I remember from the first Gulf War, Halliburton, even Halliburton, who doesn't care about anything, has pulled out of Russia. Okay, so we're going to dip in and see what's happening with Putin's mental state, which may or may not be fine. I mean, it's easy to say these guys are mad because they do mad things, but really, might not be, just might be a genuinely nasty guy. Wouldn't surprise me. So I'll be having a look at that. But what I want to concentrate on is there's 4 of them. I'll just do quick, flick reads on them. They're all coming up, either their cases are starting about January 6th or they're due for sentencing and things like that. But there's 4 I've chosen because they represent different sort of spokes in the wheel, if you like. And then I want to have a quick look at how young people are reacting to these repressive laws about what they can study and not study, repressive laws in terms of a woman's right to choose, and see how that's going down with the under 30s. Okay, so first of all, we're going to go straight in here. And I feel much better. Apparently, as of last week, Israel has stepped in and offering protection to Zelensky. So reading between the lines, that would mean he'd have complete Mossad protection. And so I feel much happier that I don't think Zelensky is going to be taken out, or it would be an extraordinary thing if they can get past Mossad. So that's some cause for optimism there. But let's have a look at Putinsky himself. What does he really think is going on? Is he still in a state of absolute delusion, or is he worried, or what? 7 card. Oh, that's a different story. Well, the thing is, he's actually easy to read compared with some people. These are textbook cards for those of you learning tarot. Here he is in the middle, King of Pentacles. Now, he is one of the richest guys. He's not the richest, but he's up there in the top 10%, top 1%, no matter how you cut it. We're talking serious wealth. We're talking the sort of money where you can't count the zeros with Putin. And we tend to forget about that a bit. You know, he doesn't flash it in the same way his houses and yachts and planes and things do, but he doesn't come across personally as, you know, that flash. He doesn't have a forearm full of Rolexes and things like that. But nonetheless, King of Pentacles. And Pentacles is money, real estate, power, all the Pentacles things, right, bang in the center. Past attitudes. Well, I'll make it easy for my friends, the oligarchs, and everyone will have a great time, meaning all the oligarchs will have a great time. So that was when things were good. That's his past attitudes. Past actions was making that happen. So Three of Pentacles, in this case, dark money. The only Pentacles card where there's, here you go with the Black Pentacles. It's not always sinister or anything, but in this case, you'd have to think so. Now, we're getting to the nitty-gritty. Above his head, here he is as the King of Pentacles, right above his head. This is a classic. If someone said, choose one tarot card out of 78 to represent what's happening for him at the moment, this would be the one I'd choose. These guys have fought a battle together. They've won, but they don't want to fight with this guy anymore. These are the ones, his co-soldiers, walking away from this figure because he's so ruthless. They don't want to even fight with him anymore, even if it means winning. So that's you think about that. That's a serious evolution of where things are going in Russia at top level. Okay, so the direction things are heading, it's in the lap of the gods. It is written, so to speak. This is the card of karma. It's got to pay out. And ironically, it's got to be this dramatic and stuff for the world, which comes up in a moment, to actually rethink everything. Okay, so this is Putin's destiny to go all the way with this. He thought his destiny was to reinvent the Soviet Union at its zenith, but in fact, his destiny is to preside over the collapse. The Soviet Union itself's already dismantled, so it's a serious dismantling of Russia that's going on here. He's starting to look outwards. He's desperate for allies. I suspect, I'm not absolutely sure of this, either with the cards or me as a political commentator. I'm not sure how much China will support him. We might do a little mini read on that in a minute, because I think this is him looking outwards. You could count all the friends who are prepared to come to this birthday party, not only on one hand, but on two fingers. It's China or China. India's sort of cooperating with him, but that's not where Putin's head's at. This is about China. I'll look at that in a second. And outcome, the world will prevail, and it will be the end of a cycle, major cycle of physical war. It's like collectively we've failed to learn about the atrocities of war, and no one really winning a war. You can lose one, but you never really win one. It's a funny business with war. And I could say that as an Australian because we've gone in with America with every war since the Second World War, and we haven't won any of them, starting with Vietnam, starting with bailing out a few weeks ago from Afghanistan, which was all flowing over from all the other pointless wars. You know, we're not getting it. We're not getting the message. And Ukraine, in a way, I think the universe chose the Ukrainian people because they're so extraordinary and courageous and united in the face of this. They're a wake-up call for all of us, you know. So it's there. I'm going to leave those cards on the table, and I want clarifiers on China, please. Putin and China. Putin and China. Putin and China. Now, the unwanted offer, is this China not wanting to be asked by Russia, or is it, I think it's the second one I'm about to say. I think this is China making an offer to Russia. We will do something X in this cup, but it's not what Russia wanted it to do. I think Russia wanted the might of China to come and stand with him. And I think they said, are you mad? Or words to that effect. So I think they will fund him to some extent. Fool's gold. I think they'll help him out on some absolute financial level. Could be some armaments, this and that, but not to the extent he wanted. This news of what they are prepared to do was a surprise to Putin, because you would be surprised if you picked up your cup and there was a fish in it, wouldn't you, really? So it's surprise news with the Page of Cups. So he really thought China would do much more for him and with him. And I think, China's keeping its cards close to its chest, as it always does. So that's up to the minute. Isolation, isolation, isolation. He's totally isolated. So let me put these cards back. What else is happening here? Now, I'll do these four guys. The first one, West Virginia, state lawmaker. Just while I'm still giving the cards a good split. His name's Derek Evans. He's 36. He's pleaded guilty prior and on to January 6th. What did he do? He advertised the movement and the idea on Facebook, and he went himself in a chartered bus with others to, God knows what, have their own little revolution in their own lunchtime. I don't know what they thought, but he has resigned. So what's the outcome? He is facing 5 years jail or $250,000 fine because he was a state lawmaker. Quickly, I'm going to look at these. Derek Evans, West Virginia. Derek Evans, West Virginia. Derek Evans, West Virginia. He gets two major arcana. I think he had more potential. I've never heard his name before, but I think he had more potential. In other words, he had more to lose than I realised. Here's the death card. It's the end of his political career. The United States of America, as my star card, and the leadership thereof is represented in this court case, and I don't know how many other lawmakers will be hauled over the coals, but that's why these ones are important before you get to the Madison Cawthorns and all the others. We need to see what's happening, and some are Trump-appointed judges and some are real judges and all this. So there's still a long way to go in this saga. And he gets evaluation or licking his wounds to some extent. Why did I do that? What was I thinking? But I don't think he's in his heart repentant. It's not that. It's like, why did I get caught? Okay. Brilliant. That's Derek Evans. Now we're going to stay in Virginia for a minute. And we've got Jacob Fracker. I won't say anything about the surname. And he's a police officer, or was a police officer. He also has pleaded guilty. He's charged with conspiracy to disrupt an official proceeding. And he went with two fellow officers who I think aren't pleading guilty. He went with two other officers and they wore gas masks in there. That could have been to stop being identified, or did they know there was going to be gas that could be used or whatever? The point is, and it's never good in these conspiracy charges, when one of them pleads guilty, it makes it a hell of a lot harder for the others. And so he's the first of these three. So let's find out Jacob Fracker, conspiracy charge. The problem is they always water down these charges at the last minute. If you're a mere mortal, the charges go up. If you're one of these guys, the charges goes down. But anyway, what's his name? Jacob Fracker. This is important. Pleading guilty. So how's that going to go for him? Oh, God. Well, I don't think he'll be too bad. Pity. I think he'll live to fight another day. He might become a bit famous for this. If he decides to go on a mea culpa apology tour, he might get a bit of a reputation for that. This is someone who makes a mark. In the meantime, he's not quite there yet. He is not sleeping. Justice is coming, and he and the others were absolute fools. I mean, really, you could do this without being a tarot reader, couldn't you? I mean, their cards are crystal clear. They just tell the story. But he has got this, and that sets him apart. This Six of Wands sets him apart from the other two and may give him a future. All right, now the next one. No, this is a nasty guy. What's he doing? Lucas Denny, he's 44. He's charged on multiple accounts of assaulting police, and he was one of those with the pipe. Plus, he was one of those who attacked Michael Fanone. Fanone? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Michael Fanone, who's that police officer who had a heart attack that day because of these brutes, these clowns, these absolute imbeciles. He founded the Texas Proud Boys. Awesome. Man of the people. But he has pleaded guilty. There's a rash of these. This is Lucas Denny, one of the ones who assaulted Michael Fanone, pleading guilty. See, any of them who have real lawyers will be pleading guilty, because I think although the legal system in the US is very different from Australia on lots of levels, there's certain things that are in common. So if you plead guilty, you're going to get a lesser sentence. If you keep holding out not guilty, when it comes to sentencing, that's when they really go. So some of these guys must have real lawyers. This is Lucas Denny, founder of the Texas Proud Boys. Ew, yuck. Oh, God. It's probably just as well hanging isn't still around. Okay. Mind you, with these states going on with these other laws, anything could come back. He had a hidden agenda. And I think this is not just the obvious, because I think what they set out to do for leading into January 6th and on the day, that was out. That was an overt agenda. This is something different. Personally, to him, he had another sneaky sort of agenda. Anyway, we won't have to worry about him in the future. To wit, the Tower. Look, he gets the Ten of Wands, the burden. He gets the Hangman. But I tell you what's weird. This card, Six of Wands, keeps on turning up, and I don't like it. I just don't like it turning up, because each time it's suggesting that they're going to become sort of well known for what they did, and I hate that. And I'll just remind you, in New Zealand, because it's so rare for them to have a shooting of any sort, let alone a mass shooting. And it would be a year or so ago. And an Australian guy flew to New Zealand to shoot up a mosque. And from the day he was arrested, Jacinda Ardern, who is a goddess, and I love her, said, I will not speak his name. We have a free press in New Zealand. They can print it if they like, but I'm asking them not to print it. I'm asking them not to say it. I don't want his name ever to be spoken ever again, because he's done this for publicity. And you know what? To this day, no one knows his name. And I think good on you, Jacinda. And he's been processed through the system. He'll get a life sentence and all of that. But we don't know his name. You know, so it's not like Rittenhouse, right? You know, they want their names out there, all of those, you know, these guys that I'm talking about today. So she said, just starve them of oxygen. Brilliant. Love her. Okay. Last one. Another pig at the trough, Aman Bundy. Oh, this is weird. This was actually a child abuse case about a malnourished 10-month-old baby. He was somehow, and I don't know whether he's the father of the child or the brother of the mother or what the story is, but why I picked this one too is he has doxed the judge and other people. Now, for those of you who haven't caught up with, you know, the lingo of now, doxing is to publish someone's personal details, you know, like they did to those election officials in Georgia and stuff. That's why I picked this case, because I want to see what happens to him for that. Do you see where I'm coming from? Because the intimidation of electoral workers and others from being doxed, excuse me, is important, because unless legally they get on top and some really severe sentences for this stuff, you won't be able to get people to work as election officials unless they're fully armed to the teeth, you know, complete nutters. So this is important too. So Armand Bundy, I have a feeling he's got a January 6th connection too, but maybe I'm dreaming that. Armand Bundy doxing the judge and the social workers and everyone else on the case too. You know. What about penalties for doxing? Penalties for doxing. Justice, I'm very pleased to see that. They're thinking about what to do with them. All right. What is this about? You know what? Here's what I think from these cards. What is crystal clear? Justice is in the centre of this, absolutely, and rightly so. But these next three cards, and I think this judge, I think it's a woman who has been doxed. I think she's talking to other justices and judges because they're evaluating what to do about this. They're arguing amongst themselves. I think this is judicial people. They're still juggling what to do, what to call it. I think I heard new crime. I just heard new crime. It probably is on the books in some form, but it doesn't get used or something like that. I think they're talking about making this a more severe crime than before. They get the strength card as the outcome. I'm very pleased about that. They get two major arcanas, first and last cards. I think they're going to do a new law which would protect workers better. You know, so if it can be identified, it came from your computer, that could be some sort of endangerment or something. They need to do something before the midterms. I also heard today, just in case you don't have enough to worry about, they're running out of paper before the 2022 midterms. Paper. And this is what happens. They could have hemp farms everywhere producing cheap paper in the US. Hemp's so good for so many things. All jokes aside, all the old potheads out there, bless you. It's not about that. It's good for making clothing, your ropes, twine. It has so many applications, so many applications. All right. On speaking of all that, let me just drop in another bit of good news. The stats I saw during the week, green jobs. Now that's a fairly big term. It's an umbrella term, right? So I'm not saying it's broken down across the board. They're just called green jobs. So I guess if they're not with the fossil fuel industries or something, but that it does include skilled work at a high level, working the high-tech solutions to various problems, down to the grassroots, people helping plant trees or whatever. Okay, here's the good news. Green jobs have increased 237% in the last 5 years, and they will outnumber oil and gas jobs by 2023. Now, last time I looked, that was next year. And this is the sort of thing that drives me mad in Australia because, we're a mining country and everything's about mining. There are more jobs in tourism than mining. If you kill the barrier reef, you lose more jobs and more income than if you start another mine. So it's time for people to really get their heads into the green economy, that it's not just pie in the sky, wishful thinking, leftover hippies who, want to live in tiny houses in the Mojave Desert. No, it's the way of the future for real business to go forward. Absolutely. Tara Winsey is very good. I won't single out a video because she mentions it on a lot of her videos on the green economy, that as an economic thing everywhere, it's really expanding despite everything that is going on. Okay, now time's rushed away, so I'm going to quickly look. During the week, I saw 80% of American school students, I think 79%, but let's say 80 to keep the math simple. So the vast majority of American students live in states that have introduced restrictive, repressive laws around science. This is the flat earthers, around racial issues, critical race theory that isn't taught in a single school in America, but let's make sure that we just burn some books anyway. It's around that, and of course around gender issue. You cannot possibly say how you want to be seen in life, and you cannot make that decision because it has been made 2,000 years ago for you. Awesome. So I want to know what young people are thinking. Now, many of those kids, particularly in hyper-red states, you're at the mercy of your family to a large extent, how you get your early values and stuff. But given that they're internet savvy by the time they get into grade school, just about, let alone anything else, how's the youth collective thinking around this? If you want kids to explore something, ban it. Okay. I'm looking at, we call them high school students. I've forgotten momentarily what you call high school in America. You have grade school and then whatever it is. Okay, so I'm talking about young teens, mid-teens. What are they thinking about these laws? What are they thinking? Do they notice? Do they care? Please, let's find out. Young people, because they... Oops. It's very foggy, let's say, what they think. This is not crystal clear to me. Okay, let me explain why. Well, not surprisingly, you could describe this card as some are upset and some aren't, and some notice and some don't. There's that, you know, weighing it up here. I'll get to the big cards in a moment. Behind it, they're still young themselves. That's why they're getting this page. I think with this, there's a lot of Neptune energy or mystical energy around it. I think the ones who have had a soul contract to come through around now are very special. But what are they dealing with? They're dealing with this bossy emperor energy. If you're 13, raped by an uncle in Idaho, whatever, now the family of the rapist can sue any practitioner who performs a termination on, so, you know, it is outrageous. This is emperor energy at its absolute worst. The magician is right underneath them. They can, and I hope will, transform this whole thing. They have that potential, but they're not there yet, and we're not there yet with them. The moon. Now, as professional readers, we always say, oh, look, it's not clear. Here's the moon, a bit foggy, you know. However, as we also all know as readers, you could spend a year just talking about the moon card and still not do justice to the layers of it, right? It is such a complex card. But here's the thing. You look at the moon here, I always think of it as a lunar eclipse and a portal. It's a portal into other things. Remember, I was saying they have this mystical Neptunian side. These cards are side by side of them. And I think this energy is actually very important. It's much more important than, oh, we don't know yet, right? Yeah. But having said that, we don't know yet. Because to a certain extent, they're the sacrificial lambs. This has an element of sacrifice to this. So it's how they come out of it, how they use their power in the future. If they zombie out and decide, oh, well, what's the point of voting? Look what's happened. I'm not going to vote, etc., etc. Or they're going to just be absolute powerhouses of positivity and change. So we're waiting to see, and they are waiting to see how this energy will play out. This, to me, is the key card of this reading. It's in their hands. Oh, bless them. Oh. Well, dear hearts, here we are again. Can't believe how quickly these days are flying by. And thank you for your comments. And I want to say once again, I find it's an absolute privilege to have this work. I love doing this work. I love meeting you all online. It's excellent. I do have to say I'm not doing any more readings now, probably till the middle of the year or something. If you're already booked in, it's fine. We're talking. But I won't be taking any more on till after the trip, and I'll keep you posted. But in the meantime, it's a few weeks till I go, so I'll be back. And it's great to have you on board. So thanks so much for your support. You guys take care. Bye.